There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean Breeze Books. Welcome back to my channel and another Friday Reads. And this is the first one I'm filming outdoors. And I'm actually filming it Thursday night at about 7 o'clock at night because I think I'm going to have difficulty filming in a place where I won't be flooded with sunlight during the day. It's the same problem as near my apartment. There's not enough trees, there's not enough tall buildings. I'm always going to be fighting the sun. The sun is starting to set, plus there's clouds over there. I will show you what I'm looking at here. And so maybe I'll just start filming it when the weather permits, Thursday evening or Thursday as soon as the sun starts to go down, and at least I'll be able to film outside. That's what I'm thinking. So here I am. And plus I'm read everything that I need to check in on or whatnot. I am just abuzz with positive energy again, even though there's more stupid little problems, but none worth narrating. I did too much of that last Friday Reads about stupid stuff that was mildly amusing if it had been condensed by 75%. But it's Thursday night. Kendi will be here by this time on Saturday. That's absolutely incredible. 3 years. It's not quite 3 years. It would be another month, and it would be exactly 3 years that I moved here from Tokyo. Wow. And this week has just been about settling in more, unpacking more, and I'm having such a good time with the library. In fact, that's my one bit of personal news. It's nerdy, bookish personal news, so fasten your seatbelts. But I have solved the problem of how to organize my library. I don't know why it didn't actually dawn on me earlier, but some people like to organize by subject. I talked to Sharon Batala, and she organizes her nonfiction by subject matter, and I still think I'll do that with my British Royal Family collection. It is separate. But I'm going to put everything, almost everything, in alphabetical order by author, including translated fiction where I may not remember the author's name, and nonfiction. And I've still got this system of what's going to be up in my office. But 97% of my library is going to be in the basement, alphabetical by author. But I have started using Library Thing, which is an app and a web page. I guess I'm using it for organizing your library, for inputting your library and sharing it with others. I actually did use it in the, when would that have been? Early 2000s, before I moved to Japan, as a way of trying to get a handle on what I had in my collection. And I've started it again. So that way, I'm also inputting it into Library Thing. And boy, is that fun, because with my iPhone, I open the barcode scanner and it makes a really satisfying click every time it enters a book. A few that doesn't recognize, or there's price tags covering the barcode, so I enter those manually, and that only takes 20 seconds, but this takes 1 second. And then I assign categories to the books. So that way, not only can I search for title and author on it, but by subject matter. And it's making the process slower, and I don't care. I'm having such a good time. It'll probably take me a month or more to get everything done. And once it's a little bit further along, I'll share it in my show notes on a regular basis. Check out my library, and it's just a click onto the Library Thing. You don't think you have to be a member to access it. I don't know that for sure, but I'm delighted that I got this idea, because I should have thought of it already, that yeah, I can organize almost everything alphabetically and then use subject stuff on this Library Thing app to find books. Like, I know it was a Korean author and it was translated. I can click on my Korean fiction tab and there they all are, and I can find what I'm looking for. So I am very pleased with myself. I'm having a fabulously geeky, bookish time with it. I think that's all my quote-unquote personal news. Let's meet this week's mystery guest.
And this week's mystery guest is Kendra Winchester, joining us from South Carolina. And before I tell you all the ways in which she's fabulous, I'm going to say, hello, Kendra, welcome.
Hi, Sean. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to have you. Kendra and I are, I think I can safely say, we're old friends. We've known each other on the internet and in bookish social media for 8 or 9 years now. She was the first person to shout out my channel when I came over to BookTube, and we first got friendly on Litzy, and here are all the fabulous things she's doing now. You might want to sit down. This is a long list and a fabulous one. So she is a contributing editor to Book Riot. She writes regularly there about audiobooks and disability literature. She's also the founder of Read Appalachia, and that's a podcast. And I think there's other things to go with the podcast, but it is a podcast. And many of you will know her from the incredible podcast she had for 6 seasons, Reading Women, which was incredible. And of course, she's a booktuber. And I'm almost done here. She writes on Substack, and she has fabulous Instagram accounts. I think more than one. Don't you have one for your corgis?
I do. Yes. The corgis definitely have their own account.
So all of that stuff will be listed in the show notes. And Kendra has been a guest a handful of times already, and I'm delighted to welcome her back. And you have a new thing to put on your resume. Tell us about this book that publishes is it tomorrow in the UK?
It's out today as of this recording.
Oh, it's as of today. So tell us about it.
Yeah. So this is release day. This is my release day event. So this is a book called Owning It, Our Disabled Childhoods. It's edited by Jen Campbell, who is a beloved booktuber from the UK. And then the Catchpoles, James and Lucy, also editors. And then it's illustrated by Sophie Camlish. There's an audiobook out that's already out in the US, but the US print edition comes out in August. But if you want to do an audiobook, you can. And I read my essay for the audiobook, which was so much fun to record. I've never recorded an audiobook or a segment of an audiobook before, and I just had the best time. But it's been a whirlwind project, yet that's taken several years to get going. It is a big project, but it's really wonderful. Big time, like disability influencers, for lack of a better term, like Amani Barbarin and Jessica Kelgren-Fozard and Nina Tem and Rebecca Tosig are also here. Ashley Harris Whaley of Disability Reframed is also in the collection. So it's so lovely to be amongst such incredible disability activists and advocates, and it's been a great time.
And the one name that jumped out at me is the incredible Ukrainian-American poet Ilya Kaminsky. The anthology is personal essays by disabled writers writing about their childhood. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea that Jen and James first had was that they wished they'd had a book about being a disabled kid when they were kids. And so this essentially is that collection. And so it's by disabled people who were also disabled as kids, because you can become disabled at any point in your life, but we just happen to be disabled as kids. And so what they asked was us to write about a memory or a couple memories from our childhood. And I'm currently working on a memoir about memory loss. So I was in the process of trying to remember what my childhood was like and trying to put those pieces back together when they asked this. And so I didn't have a lot of memories left, but the two that really stood out to me were both about adults behaving badly towards me as a disabled kid. And so that kind of was what was like a springboard into the essay and came to be, I think, a core feature. So in the first part of the essay, I'm at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital here in the US. It's up in Ohio where I grew up. And I see my pediatric neurologist for chronic daily headaches and migraines. And then the second half is at camp in West Virginia. And I have a run-in with a counselor who is behaving badly towards the disabled kids getting their medication from the nurse's office. So it really takes you back down memory lane for sure.
And will this writing end up in some form becoming part of the memoir that you're working on?
I don't think so, since this is written specifically for children. And so like the language level and
I see.
the way that it's structured and the way that I describe medical things isn't much in a suited for children kind of way. But I think some of the memories could show up definitely in the memoir for sure.
Didn't catch that important point. It's not only written about disabled childhoods, but it's written for children.
Yes.
I missed
Yes.
that. Okay, important point. Tell us about one other essay in the book that you particularly connect with or that struck you.
I really like Jane Campbell's essay, which is about going on field trips as a disabled girl. And I don't just like it because she's Jane Campbell and we love her because she is magnificent on BookTube. But I was really anxious about writing my essay because mine is sad. And we're told so much as kids just to be happy. We're told so much as kids to not feel our big feelings, that being sad is not okay. And we're not given space for those feelings. But her essay that she sent out as an example just gave me permission to be sad and to have a sad essay, because sadness is also an important emotion for kids to learn how to process. And a lot of us as kids just want to be seen as sad and have that acknowledged that what we're going through is sad. That doesn't mean that we live an overall sad life or anything like that. It's just that what we're experiencing is sad, and that's okay. And I really appreciated her essay for doing that, for sure.
Does this resonate at all with, is this filling a big gap in literature in terms of, is there middle grade fiction or nonfiction about disability that children have access to? How big of a hole is this book starting to fill?
I think there's a pretty big hole for it. This is for middle grade, and I want to say it's 8 to 13 years old. It's not on the back or anything, but it's around 8, I'd say 8 to 13. And there are some awards for disability featured in literature in the United States, but this is an international collection. There are people from all over the world in this collection. And I really appreciated the international quality of that, because being disabled in different countries is very different based on your healthcare system and where you are and your access to healthcare. So, for example, I live in the United States, so we have to pay for our healthcare, and I had to travel 2.5 hours one way to my doctor because I lived in the mountains in Appalachia. Well, we didn't have the specialists close by. And I've learned since that the doctor that I used to go to still operates, and people will fly across the country to see him. So it is a wild time. And I'm sure other countries have different challenges, which are mentioned in the essays. So I really appreciated that. This really is like Disability Visibility, edited by Alice Wong, but for kids. And that's something that is a big comp title for it. So I'm glad that kids will have that now as well.
We know quite a bit, most of us on BookTube, about Jen Campbell, but tell us about the other two editors that share a surname. I assume they're a couple, but I don't know that for sure.
Yes, James and Lucy Catchpole, they're married, and James has a limb difference. So he has one leg and uses crutches to get around. And he's written a lot of children's books about that. They're picture books, and I love them. They're out in the US as well. Lucy Catchpole, who often co-writes with him, she has chronic illness and is a wheelchair user. And she also has chronic illness and often is bedridden. And it's in like similar category that I'm in. And so I really relate to her social media and just talking about what it's like being an adult who's often bedridden much of the time, and that there's still joy in your life. And I just really appreciate their social media presence, and they do such great work for kids. And yeah, I really love it.
And you mentioned that there is an illustrator, so tell us about, or maybe you'll show
Yes.
two of the illustrations.
So this is a fun process. I loved it. So I have a friend from camp. We have known each other. We're in a group of friends, and we've known each other since we were probably 10 or 11 years old. And we're all still friends. We get together about once a year and we play board games, and who knows what antics shall ensue. But we met at camp. And Amanda was one of the first people who really made it okay for me to feel sick and to feel that was okay to feel. I shouldn't be forced to smile. I shouldn't force to be happy. And so what the illustrator did was she asked for photos of me as a kid, but also Amanda, and then illustrated us in one of these book plates.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And so there's Amanda there with me, and there's an MRI machine that I mentioned, blood work, pills, the mountains. So she captures so many different elements of the essay in this little book plate. And just the process of seeing the drafts of that were really lovely. And of course, she did the cover. And so you can see different people on the cover, and then there's more on the back. And it was just really cool. I really love that process. And just having Amanda and I illustrated it as girls was really cute.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about this anthology?
This anthology is really a labor of love. All of us have put in extra hours in promotion and to try to get it out there to kids in particular. And we're going to start, I know they're doing some events in the UK now, and they're going to do some in the US later, but just sharing the anthology, just buying a copy, whether that be the audiobook. I got mine from Libor FM, or you buy the book over in the UK, and I know it's available in New Zealand and Canada now. So you can definitely go check all of those out, and those are really helpful. Right now in my country where I live in the United States, there is a direct attack on disabled people's rights right now. And so it is a lot. We have a lot of feelings. We are not okay. And just having this book has been really a balm, I think, because it really shows the resilience of disabled people fighting back, that we deserve a space, that we are equally human, and that disability is a normal part of humanity. And it comes with a lot of feelings, but there's also a lot of joy there too.
Sounds wonderful. Canadians will have an easier time getting it. Oh, is it published in Canada?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
really? By Faber?
I think so.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure at worst you'd have to go to Blackwell's and order it from Blackwell's. But
That's right.
you also get Blackwell's. So I'm slightly jealous.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about that for just a minute? With the tariffs bullshit, Americans aren't able to order from Blackwell's
Or Waterstones, yeah.
or Waterstones.
So
There's other online booksellers that maybe we don't want to mention, but do you know if it's across the board or just those two online sellers that won't ship
those
to
are the
America?
big ones that I have heard. I haven't checked the place in Australia that I've ordered from, but I'm just assuming it's a hot mess right now.
Everything.
So yeah.
And that's about as much as we're going to say about that to keep ourselves reasonably cheerful for the
Yeah.
rest of the chat. Well done. Congratulations. It's your first publication in an anthology, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
But not your last, I bet. Tell us what you're working on now, Kendra.
So I am editing an anthology of disabled writers. This is for adults, but this is an anthology of Appalachian writers. So I live in a region in the United States that's part of the Appalachian Regional Commission's designation of Appalachia, so along the Appalachian Mountain Range in the eastern United States. It's often very isolated, very rural. Not always, but that tends to be the case. And it's often very difficult to get healthcare in the region. So it is a very complex anthology, but it is an anthology of creative writing and of poetry. We have a lot of autistic and other types of neurodivergent poets that are going to be a part of it. We have people from all over the region that are going to be part of it. So I'm very excited. It is a very long project. I've been working on it since 2023 and it won't be out until 2027. All things going well, but that's my current project from one anthology to the next, I guess.
And so what stage are you at? Is it past the point where people can submit stuff?
People can still submit. Yes, if you are from Appalachia or you live in Appalachia, you can email me at kendra@readappalachia.com and ask for the submission form. You can submit there until the end of July, I think, is the end of the submission window. So still time. So please, we are only about 60 to 70% full. So we still have a good bit of room
Wonderful.
left.
Not sure how many subscribers I have in that fabulous part of the world, but if you yourself are interested or you know somebody who might, spread the word. And you mentioned at the beginning of our chat that you're working on a memoir of memory loss, which is a compelling phrase. And I'd wonder if you'd say a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so I have chronic daily headaches and migraines. It's genetic from what we can tell. And several years ago, back when you and I were buddy reading a Maggie O'Farrell novel, it was that,
Yeah.
yeah, it was that same week I was at the beach and we were budding reading the novel. And I ended up with a very severe migraine. I get a lot of severe migraines, but this one hung about and I ended up starting to lose a lot of memory, my short-term memory. I turned into Dory. I couldn't remember things. I would ask the same things. I would tell the same stories. I still do a lot of that now, but volume was turned way up. And ever since, I've really struggled with my memory. And I lost a lot of older memories and different things. So through the process of writing the memoir, it's a memoir of writing a memoir. It's a going back through photos and trying to piece together my childhood and a lot of these things that I've forgotten. It is an experiment, a book. It's pretty weird and it's very meta, I guess you could say, but it's a long process because I don't remember things and I have to go back. I've gone through so many photos at my parents' house and I have so many journals. I'm going through all this stuff, but also I'm writing what it's happening now so that as I'm working on the memoir, I can go back and write what happened because I won't remember what happened. So It's lots of journaling, lots of reflection. I feel like it's a form of therapy, maybe.
Absolutely. And how long are we going to have to wait for this to be purchasable?
Probably a while. I have a draft of one of the essays. Everything's outlined in pretty in detail. So I'm working from a macro to micro scale. But as far as sitting down and cleaning up those drafts, it's going to be a while. But I am writing about the process over on my Substack Winchester Ave. So you get some inside looks of the process of trying to figure out how even to do this. Because the big question people have for me is, what did you forget? I too want to know the answer. I don't know. We'll work
Right?
on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of an inappropriate question. Tell us more about what you do over on Winchester Avenue.
Yeah, so I write a Substack. It's a way to keep my brain moving. So it's just a newsletter. I write about everything from essays about being disabled. That tends to be one of the recurring themes. Sometimes I'll share my favorite books. So I'm not filming booktube videos as much now. I write about the corgis, which you might hear in the background. I write about being from Appalachia and what I'm working on and all sorts of things. And it's, I think, a great way to just practice writing and keeping your brain working when you have migraines and different things. It's like physical therapy for your brain.
As I said, all those links will be in the show notes. And Kendra, I think you have some books that I've asked you to recommend. I haven't chosen the books. That's your job, but what have you got to recommend to us?
So the first one is Disability Visibility by Alice Wong. I love that book. I have it underlined, and I have a series of books that I have next to my side table as I'm working on this memoir. And this is one of them. And I have it underlined and tabbed. It's such a beautiful collection of essays written by disabled people from a wide range of backgrounds with a wide range of disabilities. It's usually one of the first books that I hand to people when they ask about what it's like to be disabled because it's such a broad collection. And there's a follow-up that's Disability Intimacy, which I haven't read yet, but it's supposed to be just as good. But it's about different kinds of intimacy, including sexual intimacy, platonic intimacy with strangers. Like you take that word and you take it in whatever direction the person wanted to take it. And I've heard that it's fabulous. I have a couple more that are on my side table. So I have The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elisabeth Tova Bailey. This is a tiny little book, gorgeous, and it's about a woman who gets a condition where she's basically bedridden for entire, I think, summer or year, a certain length of time. And as she's recovering, she's watching this wild snail that kind of rode in on a plant that a friend brought her. And so it really captures what it's like to be in bed because of illness and how your world slows down. Your world shrinks, sometimes in a sad way, but oftentimes it can make you see the tiny things around you that you never noticed before. And I have it next to my a side table and I've underlined things and it was just a bump to my soul. Have you read it before?
No, but other guests have recommended it, and their recommendations stuck with me. It's apparently just beautifully written, right?
Stunning prose. I know you're not as big of a nature and a nature guy, but I think you would really enjoy the beauty that she captures in it. I never knew. I don't not a snail fan per se, but I am now a snail fan because of Elizabeth Tova Bailey.
The truth is, I'm not somebody who goes out in nature all that often, but I actually do enjoy reading about it.
Okay, I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, and every time somebody mentions it, I mention a book that I studied in a life writing graduate English course that is similar. It's called I Raise My Eyes to Say Yes. And I think it's co-authored by Ruth Sienkiewicz-Mercer and Stephen B. Kaplan. That will be in my show notes. And Kendra, I can email that to you if you're interested. And it's about a woman that was bedridden and paralyzed and could only blink, and how she developed communication with her caregiver and family just by blinking the letters of the alphabet. And a powerful memoir.
But I will definitely have to get that from you. And the last one I have is one about memoir form that it's deeply impactful. It's Things We Didn't Talk About When I Was a Girl by Jeannie Vanasco. It's about her experience writing a memoir where she's interviewing the man who sexually assaulted her.
Odd.
And so she's part of it is in the past because she's doing flashbacks back to what happened. But then a lot of it's in the present where she's engaging with you, the reader, like how do you even do this? Do I want to talk to him? Everything from what name, like pseudonym she chooses for him, his reaction to her interviewing him, the fact that they were really good friends and she just never imagined that he would do such a thing, and how and trying to process that. It's very much on the page of very aware that she's writing a memoir. And she does it in such a brilliant way that I keep coming back to it. And the way that her form is, the way that she throws everything out the window and just writes what she's genuinely feeling about the process of writing a memoir about such a difficult topic. It also delves into what does restorative justice look like? What is the purpose of it? And she starts asking those questions from her perspective after the fact.
Oh my God, I've never heard of it. The title sounds familiar, but I didn't know anything about it. That just blows me away.
It
Ah,
came out, I want to say Tin House. Yes, Tin House in 2019. It's really stayed with me ever since I read it. So it's one of the ones I keep on my side table as well because I really love what she does with form and the way she tackles such a difficult topic.
sounds incredible. Speaking of incredible, what a great chat, Kendra. I've now am already starting to think of things, reasons I can concoct to get you back. But this was such a great chat. Thank you so much, my dear friend, Kendra.
I always love chatting with you. Thank you for having me.
Kendra's an old friend of mine. You got all that history in the chat, and I'm delighted that she is now a published author in an important anthology, and I hope you'll all check it out. I guess in America, the easiest way to get a hold of it is by audiobook, but it is being published in America in August. She's got her finger in so many fabulous bookish pies. It's just wonderful. I have managed to get one video posted this week. It was a long chat, a wonderful chat with Chris, Dorian, and James about Edith Wharton's 1923 novel about World War I, A Sun at the Front. And I loved it more than the other three, actually. And that chat is about 50 minutes long, and it's great. I wonder how much that barking will pick up. We'll find out in editing. So that's there for your viewing pleasure. And I have finished one book, started another, and we'll be starting another one in the coming days. The book that I finished was the latest one that I read to my mom, One Last Song by Nathan Evans, a queer British novel that Bob the Booker put on my radar. He has interviewed the author. I'll put a link to his interview and his review if he did a standalone review. And it was published quite recently, 2024, last year. And it wasn't a perfect novel. I thought it was completely delightful. And the ending was so powerful that it went from what it had been sitting in my heart as a 4-star read and it bumped up to 5, which often happens. If the ending is powerful, it doesn't matter what flaws it's just a 5-star read. Oh my God. So it's about 2 elderly gay men in a old folks home or whatever those are called in London. And the straight acting guy has been there for a little while. And then Joan comes in, and she wonders even in this story whether if she'd been a generation younger so that she would have identified as transgender. She dresses in women's clothes and calls herself Joan, but doesn't exclusively dress in women's clothes, is very effeminate, and I had a good time creating that voice. I didn't use my own real voice because my real voice is very butch, but I can do camp at the drop of a hat, and Mom enjoyed that part. They're next door neighbors. Their rooms are next to each other, and Joan is smoking cigarettes and pot on the balcony, and the other guy's name is Jim. He doesn't like any of that, and so they clash, and then they fall in love. The character work, both Joan and Jim and their stories were fabulous. And so in a really playful, campy, entertaining way, issues of gay identity are explored here. Joan was a radical, political protester type of gay man, and Jim was the exact opposite, very closeted. And he did have a long-term relationship, and he was a widower from that, but he wasn't very out there, and he was very straight-laced and uptight. And so they met their match in each other. The ending, which I'm not going to tell you anything about, redeemed what flaws I felt there were. And what I call flaws is just that it's commercial fiction in many ways. And so it's a bit of a flimsy plot. And some of the side characters I thought could have been fleshed out more. but the ending was just so beautiful that I think this one might even go on my favorite shelf. I'll let it sit. I'll let it sit for a year before I decide that, but I really loved it. There isn't enough fiction out there about older gay men, and so this fills a void. I absolutely loved it, especially because of the ending. So that's all I finished this week. Just literally 20 minutes ago, I started reading Mum, the next novel, and this is one you might remember from a somewhat recent book haul. This is a book that I took from the books that were my grandparents' library, that formed my grandparents' library. This one probably belonged to my grandma Mooney. It's a Book of the Month Club book, and it's by an author that I've been hearing about and haven't read. And it had a wonderful, hilarious opening. I'll put a link with a timestamp where you can hear the opening paragraph from my book haul. I read that same opening to Mum, and she loved it, and so this is what we're doing now. Want to know what it's called? It's called An Episode of Sparrows by Rumer Godden. And I've been hearing about her for a while, and this is from 1955, and it opens with this hilarious meeting of the gardening committee in some British, I don't know, housing set in probably the early 50s or whatever. So what would that be? Some kind of a community garden of some kind. And there's holes in the soil. Somebody has stolen a few clumps of soil. And so the gardening committee convenes, and the two people that I think that I'm sure will be the main characters are two spinster sisters, Angela Chesney and Olivia Chesney. I think Olivia Chesney's going to be our protagonist, but it's too early for me to know that for sure. Angela is a hard ass, no nonsense kind of person. She's 10 years younger than Olivia. Olivia's a lost soul and very soft, and she's never done anything in life, so she just hangs around in the house that her sister inherited. Angela is doing a whole bunch of charity work and this and that and this and that. And I think they're in their middle age. Olivia might be, she's a decade older, so she might be in early old age. I don't know yet. But that garden committee meeting was so freaking hilarious. And then it got a little more serious. I'm already worried about Olivia. She is a bit of a lost soul, and she is full of yearning in a way that's evocative of a Barbara Pym spinster, although so far I haven't seen any humor in her sections of the first couple chapters, but she's delightful. And her hard-assed younger sister, who might be 50 and Olivia might be 60, that's just a wild guess, is very entertaining. She just is very harsh with everybody. And that's all I can tell you from the first two chapters, but thoroughly engrossed already. And it's boding that Rumer Godden is going to be a Sean writer. And I'm doing a pseudo buddy read with Melanie, a big supporter of my channel and one of my top tier patrons. She and I are reading, and I'm going to soon start, the new biography of Britain's first king, James Stuart. First king once Britain became Britain, and it's called Queen James because he was playing for my team by Gareth Russell, and it just came out a few weeks ago. I read and absolutely adored Gareth Russell's very whimsical yet poignant biography of the Queen Mum. Let's have another drink. I love the book. I love the title. And this is now about James Stuart. And it's going to probably focus to a fairly large degree on his homosexuality, but I expect I'm going to lap up whatever he has on offer. And Melanie and I are going to discuss it probably in a recorded Zoom chat that'll be on my channel eventually at the end of May or in early June. So it's time to get a start on it. All right, that's my Friday Reads filmed on Thursday night, and thank you very much for watching.